one way we can really look at meaning is, interestingly enough, through the death process, the actual death process. And so near-death experiences, they really have happened universally across cultures, across all time, really. I've recently been studying the near-death experiences that have been reported, say, in China, in India, in indigenous cultures, Native Americans, Australia, Europe, all over. People have had these types of experiences across all time. People have studied them going back to, Mesopotamia, Egypt, and everything. And what's universal across all these cultures is when people have these experiences, where they almost die, or sometimes people are reported to be, seemingly dead for days, and then they come back to life and they share what they experienced. What cultures have done universally is that this information has informed them on, this is what happens when we die. This is what happens. They take it as reality, because a lot of times when people bring these experiences back, just like in modern times, there's information that can be verified. Say running into someone else who had died, but you didn't know they had died. These kinds of things have been happening all along. And so the death process, this is what happens. We, enter from darkness to light. We encounter the souls of deceased relatives. We, go on some type of journey to another world. This is what's reported. And so in modern days, in this materialist dominant world, lots of people say, they're skeptical, and they say, well, how do we know that's actually what happens when we die? How do we know that's going to happen to all of us? Well, fortunately, we have a study that has details on exactly that. And this was performed in a hospice center in Buffalo. I think it's called Buffalo Hospice, or Hospice Buffalo, by Dr. Christopher Kerr. And he was very interested as a doctor in the hospice setting for his own personal reasons. And he started to notice these patterns, as many do. Now, previous to this, there had been people like Peter Fenwick and others who had studied deathbed visions, but it had always been done from the perspective of the clinicians or the family who was around the dying patient, never from the patient's perspective. People were concerned about interrupting the dying process by asking the patient's questions. So that's a valid concern. But Dr. Kerr got around that when he explained to the Institutional Review Board before doing this study that patients actually benefited from being asked about their end-of-life dreams and visions, how he came to call them. And so they actually benefited. They enjoyed and liked being believed. They liked that their stories were being believed, and it was comforting. And so in this study, they had people only they ruled out anyone who had dementia, delirium, or confusion. So lots of people will use that as a reason. Oh, they were, just in having dementia symptoms or something, but that none of these people had those kind of symptoms. And what they found is that 88% of the people in the study had at least one dream or vision. Now, we say dream or vision. Dream, we call it a dream when the person appears to be asleep. We call it a vision when the person appears to be awake. But really, these people report them as being kind of the same thing. It's more of a sleep-awake state that's flooded with intense and lifelike dreams and visions. And so the content of these dreams and visions is related, first of all, to revisiting memories from the past, very similar to a life review in a near-death experience. And first, it starts with, revisiting memories from your past with people who might still be living. So you might be encountering souls who are still alive, but there's usually a theme of returning to wholeness and bonds of love. And as death comes closer, it's the visits from deceased loved ones increase. And this is what people are mostly remarking on. They are often described, these people, as waiting for them in watchful silence, offering pure love and support. Some of them even have interactive conversations and can't understand why the people around them can't see the person they're talking to. That's because 99% of these participants, Nearly all of them said these dreams and visions were real. Whether they were awake or asleep, they emphatically claimed these were genuine events taking place. They weren't like regular dreams like they were used to having in real life. We've all had dreams. When you get to the end of life, you know the difference, right? So these patients rated the degree of realism in these end-of-life dreams and visions to be 10 out of 10. And they commonly stated they felt more real than real, not just lifelike, but actually lived. Nearly all of them had no doubt they were having actual experiences of reuniting with their loved ones, emphatically saying they were not hallucinations. In fact, they reported they were the most awake, alert, and present they had ever felt. And so the death process itself seems to be a transformative setting. 60% of the dreams were classified as comforting, and 19% were distressing. So not all of them are going to be about, love, but most of them are. Now, 21% were both comforting and distressing. But keep in mind that these distressing, what a patient would call distressing dream and vision, often still brought resolution and closure to past events. So this life review seems to begin to happen in a hospice setting where a person has a very natural death process. And when a near-death experience happens, it's sudden and unexpected. And so that life review has to start, right then. And so I think they're related. I think that life review begins in a natural death process.